Hey, I'm Tim. I'm the founder of OraclesElixir.com and the product lead for Shadow League of Legends, which is a professional analytics platform that I've been working on for quite a while. I'm really excited about what we've been building, and I want to look at one of the features that we have that has to do with VOD review and in improving the way analysts can look at games, learn more about them more easily and in more powerful ways using data to support their video analysis. So I'm in the VOD review section of Shadow, and I'm looking specifically at Game 1 of the World Final Series between Samsung and SKT. And I want to look at the way we can review a specific kind of phase of the game and learn more about it. So when we're looking at kind of more general LoL statistics, we like to talk about different phases of the game, like early game, mid game, late game, or you might talk about the laning phase as being distinct from the early game. So personally, I like to say laning phase is up to 10 minutes, early game is up to 15 minutes, so those overlap and things like that. That's really helpful when you're comparing between multiple games, but when you're looking at a single game, that's really not a useful way to look at the game. The useful way to look at the game is by measuring phases between what we call resets. And a reset is a time when a team kind of has finished a rotation of some sort or some event has happened, and most or all of the team goes back to base, buys items, and comes back on the map together as a unit. You're not always going to get 5 members going back as once, but you get individual resets, team resets, and the time between 2 team resets can be a really useful way to kind of measure phases of the game. So I've looked at this game already. I don't want to take too much time in the video looking for that, but we can go through the events timeline we have here, and I'm going to find a phase that I identified earlier where full screen the video for a second. And about 8.5 minutes into the game, we've got the state of the game is Samsung has a lead in the top lane. Kennen is beating Gnar. Kennen has just gone back to base and is teleporting out, so he's got tempo over the Gnar. So Cuvée has tempo over Huni, which means he was the first one able to go back to base, come back into lane. Huni still needs to recall. You see he hasn't shopped yet, so he still needs to get his first recall off and get back to match Cuvé's tempo. Meanwhile, Faker has a CS lead in the mid lane, slightly. Bang and Wolf have a CS lead in the bottom lane. But as you see this kind of play out a little bit, again, Samsung has the tempo lead in mid, Crown completes a recall. So this is a partial blue team reset, and now to match that reset, SKT have just recalled Peanut, who's behind the pace in the jungle. Huni is recalling to match Cuvé's pace in the top lane, and Faker recalls as well. So around 8:30 or so, SKT has a reset. Their bottom lane doesn't get to recall, but let's now to kind of measure what happens from that SKT reset up until the next reset, how well they do. So we're gonna pause this. We're gonna jump forward. We can use this handy little button, jump forward 30 seconds at a time, and I'm gonna look for the next time that SKT has a bunch of people in base together. There was a recall just here from Peanut, but it was only him. The rest of the team had to stay out on the map. And again, you might want to watch through this rather than jumping so fast to actually identify whether there's a reset or not, but I watched it already. And the next reset, I believe, is around 13:30. Let's jump back slightly just to make sure. Yeah, there it is. So right here, you get Cassiopeia goes back, Gragas goes back, Lulu and Varus go back. So there's the end of the reset, right around 13:10 or so. So what you can do with this reset is now you could just watch the time between those 2 points, see what happened, and kind of analyze it and say, okay, how well did SKT do in this reset? But we've got this feature that I'm really excited about called the Deltas feature, which I've already set up. And when you activate it, you get these in and out markers. So I've set the in marker to just before SKT's reset at 8:30, so it's at 8:28, and then right at the end of that reset at 13:08. And what you get in this table here, I'm not sure if you'll be able to read all the numbers, but you've got a row for Samsung, a row for SKT, columns for gold, XP, CS, and you can see that between these 2 reset points, Samsung earned almost 2,000 more gold than SKT, 1,000 more experience, 39 more CS, without any kills. So that included a tower, it included a dragon. Basically, this phase of the game was really huge in generating a lead for Samsung, getting them ahead. And so from SKT's perspective, between those 2 resets, now you can look at the time and say, okay, what went wrong? We can go back and review it. We can go back to the start of that reset, and there's a lot you can learn from this. If we kind of fast forward through it, what you'll see is the very frequent theme between these two resets is that SKT is behind in tempo. As I believe I mentioned earlier, Kennen has the tempo over Gnar. He was the first one back to lane. Malzahar has the tempo over Cassiopeia, the first one back to lane. Even though Bang & Wolf have Varus and Lulu, who should be able to easily get tempo in bottom lane, they should be able to win the laning phase and get pushing priority. You can see in a situation like this one, it actually comes down a lot if you watch this segment of the game to Peanut being behind and not being able to support a push from Varus and Lulu. So in a situation like this one right here, Xayah and Janna were able to get into river while Varus was having to catch the wave. Samsung had bot lane priority, which gave them control to now come in and set up vision. And then, again, Samsung maintains that lane priority, cleaning up the minion waves, being able to get the bodies into the river first, control the dragon area. And that's the start of it, and that's the way the rest of this reset phase plays out, is that Samsung, by controlling the minion waves, controlling the vision, once they've got those minion waves pushed up, they get in, they control the vision, they continue to maintain priority and move out of lane into the river first. That nets them this dragon. And if we jump forward some more, when SKT comes back out on the, pushes back on the map a little bit, the dragon's already gone. This part of the jungle is already farmed out, so Peanut doesn't really have anything he can do. He has to go up top side to find something to farm. And then, once again, the strong lane that should be able to push and get priority and start to get some tempo for SKT is not able to do so. There are a couple points during this phase where people from SKT try to recall, but they can't complete the recall because they'd be losing too much tempo in the lane. They'd be giving up too much of a push. You can see eventually SKT even have to back Varus and Lulu out of lane completely. They lose a ton of tower damage. And towards the end of this reset, that lack of jungler presence, that lack of lane priority, and that lack of vision control results in losing the first tower. Finally, SKT realize, we have to cut our losses. We have nothing to gain by staying on the map. If Varus doesn't even complete his recall, there's the end of that reset phase. And so that's where we see that 2,000 gold, about half of that's going to come from the tower. The rest is going to come from those 39 CS. And SKT really lost control of the game by not being able to get the lanes into a priority position where they can move into the river, control the vision, control the dragon, and take control of the game. And Samsung punished that very well with just good conservative macro and lane control. So this is a way that, again, that our VOD review tools allow you to get into that piece of the video, learn a lot more from it more quickly, add some data onto it to add context to what happened, and then explore that data, understand the causes of that data. And so you can draw some learnings out of this. You could take these points in the game and go to the players and say, here were the consequences of. You might want to look back a little bit and see why they got into this situation in the first place. But you can look at here's the consequences of this set of events. It cost us 2,000 gold swing because at the start of this, the gold was actually almost exactly even at the start of this reset phase. So it's just a really interesting way to kind of dig into the VOD, get a little more out of it, navigate through it more quickly using this key events timeline, and just be a more powerful way to analyze the game.